Hi, it's Steph, and this week I have quite a few things that I need to get done. The days are getting shorter and I am running out of time before I need to get all of these things switched around and planted. So I'm going to try this week every day on my lunch break to get some work done. So let's see how many projects I can knock off my list during a 1-hour lunch break throughout the week. Today is Monday, and the project that I want to get done is moving this black lace elderberry. Now, this poor black lace elderberry has been moved about 3 times, but it is clearly in a very bad spot. It keeps getting chewed up by George's lawnmower, and it also is, kind of right on the side of this blue spruce, which it's a huge elephant in the room. Literally huge. It has gotten too big for this space. So this is something we've talked about on various videos, but it is going to have to go at some point. So step 1, get the elderberry out of the way. And where I'm planning to move it is, let me show you, I'm going to pan over slowly. So right here, it's on this side of the blue spruce on our foundation side of the house. And we are going to move it right there on my mixed shrub border that I'm working on, right where you see the wheelbarrow. So let's go ahead and get it dug up and moved. Here it is. It was in there good. The roots were a little bit difficult to get dug up. So what I'm going to do now to make this a little bit easier to plant is I'm going to take off a lot of this top growth. Also, when you transplant a shrub, it's actually best to prune it down so that it has to support less top growth and works on establishing new roots in its new planting hole. So that's what I'm going to work on. It's a beautiful shrub. It has dark foliage. I don't know if it's going to survive this transplant. Like I said, I've transplanted it a few times already, but I'm hopeful that if I can trim it down and get it planted and watered and it's still nice and cool because it's fall, that maybe it'll make it through to spring. But here I am with my elderberry. You can see that it's got a pretty big wingspan at the moment. So I'm going to trim quite a bit of this growth off. This is a pretty big shrub. This is a 10 to 12 foot tall and wide shrub, but I think it would look really beautiful between these two evergreens that have a yellow coloring to them. Beside the fact that this shrub here needs to be trimmed so that I could focus on root development, it's also so top heavy that if I didn't trim it, the wind would surely knock it over. So it certainly has to be trimmed. As I was trimming this elderberry, I noticed that I had a hole at the top of one of the stems. Let me show you here. Can you see that? There was a hole in that stem. I think that this elderberry is suffering from borer damage. See that hole there? So I started cutting some more and I noticed that I think that this has a elderberry borer beetle infestation. See this? Has anyone dealt with this before? This is my first experience. While I did hear about it, so I knew enough to Google it and to see if this is what I was dealing with, I'm not sure if by cutting off that branch, this elderberry will survive. So if it didn't survive the transplant, it might have gotten taken down eventually anyway by this elderberry borer. So I'm curious, let me know in the comments. I am still going to finish planting this and see what happens. If it doesn't make it, we'll have a spot to plant something new next spring. It's been 53 minutes and we got it done. And to be honest, quite a bit of that time was actually moving my camera around. But this is the way that the shrub wanted to sit in the hole because of the roots. So it has a little bit of a funky shape. Plus I did have to prune it quite a bit so that it wouldn't topple over in its hole with a little bit of wind, because, you know, obviously it's not rooted yet because we just moved it. I'm glad to have caught the elderberry borer, and hopefully that was the only stem that was affected. So you can see that it has a little bit of an awkward shape. Oh my gosh, there's chipmunks everywhere. There's just a bunch of chipmunks. Can you see them right there? Look how cute they are. I know they're destructive in the garden, but I'd rather see those than a mouse. If it was a mouse, I'd be running right now. The camera would be on the ground. Okay, so on either side, I have a yellow evergreen. So this here is a gold fern spray gold hinoki. And on the other side of the elderberry is a gold mop cypress. So I think that if the elderberry does survive, it'll be a really pretty dark foliage in the center of these two yellow evergreens. So that's it for Monday. We'll see what we can get done on Tuesday. Today is Tuesday and another lunch break. I have about 40 minutes today, and today's chore is going to be to try to get my dahlias tagged. Normally every year I wait a little too late, and after the first frost comes, I can't tell what dahlia is which, and I have a really hard time identifying them because I've been really bad about tagging. So I am trying to get ahead of things this year, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to tag as many as possible during this lunch break, and I'm also going to deadhead them. So let's see how much we can get done. My time is up. I was able to get a bunch of the dahlias deadheaded, and I also was able to tag at least half of them. It gets a little tricky because it's very densely planted over here, so it gets hard to kind of track the flower all the way back down to the stem. But I was able to confirm that some of the tags that I had placed at the beginning of the season were correct, and I just added another label just to be on the safe side. And I'll have to finish this another day, but I'm happy with the progress that I made. Doing something is better than doing nothing. This is a beauty. A la mode. While I was out here in my vegetable garden working on my dahlias, I noticed that my delicata squash has now ripened. It has this pretty buttery yellow coloring, which means it can now be picked off of this vine. I did have to strip all of the leaves a few weeks back because they ended up getting powdery mildew, but I left them on the vine to finish ripening, and this is a really delicious squash. If you haven't grown delicata yet, it has a soft skin, so you can just cut it in slices, take out the seeds, roast them with a little olive oil, salt, pepper, and garlic powder, and in the oven, and they get so nice and sweet, and they're delicious. As I was deadheading my dahlias, I went ahead and I stuck a few of them in these jars that I save throughout the year. You know, all kinds of jars, spaghetti sauce, salsa. I just rinse them out and I keep them in a cardboard box in my basement, and they are perfect for giving out flower arrangements. So I have these dahlias here that are really pretty. I'm going to go ahead and place them on my front driveway wall so that the neighbors can grab and hopefully enjoy them for a couple of days. And here they are. I think they turned out really pretty, and I'm pretty sure I have at least 2 of them claimed. So that is it for Tuesday, and I will see you tomorrow on Wednesday. We made it to Wednesday, and as you can see, I'm actually in my car and not in my garden. And the reason for that is because I'm actually working at the office today. So while I can't use my lunch break to do outside work in my garden, I am going to use it to make 2 stops to purchase 2 items that I do need for my garden. So we are at stop number 1, which is Walmart, and I am going to pick up a really large tote to overwinter my dahlias. So yesterday we did a little bit of dahlia work, and it got me thinking that my tote from last year had cracked. So I need a new one. So we're going to see if we can find one that is nice and large with a lid that I can utilize for that purpose, and then we are going to go to stop number 2. So let's get it done. We have 1 hour. All right, here we are. This is what I'm looking for. One of these really large clear totes. They've worked really well for me in the past until my recent one that I was using cracked. So this one here is a 99 liter, 105 quarts, and looks to be $14.37. And I found another Sterilite brand container that's just a little bit bigger. So this one is 120 gallons, 114 liters, and it's only $2 more. So because I get a little more depth with this one, I'm gonna go with a little bit larger size. And stop number 2, Harbor Freight Tools. So let's go in and see if we can find what I'm looking for. All right, what I'm looking for is a garden fork. It's hard to believe that I've been gardening for over 10 years and I've gotten through this long without picking up one of these tools. But the reason I need one of these is because to dig up my dahlias. In the past, I've used a traditional shovel, and while it works fine, something similar to that, sometimes I dig into my tubers, and if you damage your tubers, you have more chance of having disease and them perishing. So I have read that these are the way to go to get your dahlia tubers out of the soil, similar to digging up potatoes. So I'm going to pick up one of these. They are $22.99. It's a One-Stop Gardener's 13-inch garden fork with a D handle. And the reviews that I've read online, they actually have really good reviews on their website. So of 600 reviews, 4.5 stars. So not bad. Check out this adorable mini shovel that they also have. I can find a lot of uses for this, like digging out perennials in tight spaces. How cute. These feel pretty decent quality, not bad really. And it's only, this one here is only $9.99. Well, that is it for Wednesday. I was able to get both my tote and my garden fork to dig up my dahlias over the next couple of weeks. So I am set for that. And I have about 10 minutes to get back to the office. And I will see you again on Thursday back in my garden. It is Thursday and we are back in my garden, and today's plan is to get these 3 perennial ground covers planted. I picked these up recently on one of my trips to the Home Depot, and this was the first time that I saw this variety being sold at the garden center there. And this is a plumbago. And what's really awesome about this particular ground cover is that not only does it have late season blooming with these really dainty, beautiful blue flowers, but the foliage also changes color in fall. And in fact, right now it's starting to get its beautiful burgundy fall color. So my plan is to put it right here in this woodland bed that I have. This is a bed that we created with these rocks that we found on our property. And the problem with this bed though is that because it has some scrub pines and some oaks planted here, there's a lot of root competition. So I have a really difficult time getting anything to really thrive in this bed. I have a couple of bleeding hearts, columbine, as well as a couple of shrubs that seem to be really happy. I have a rhododendron that blooms in spring, as well as a lilac. But I have been working on adding daffodil bulbs because daffodils do well in part shade, and this is a part shade area, as well as some ground covers. And this is the newest addition to my ground cover collection. I have a few varieties growing around the garden and I really like them. I think they serve a really great purpose for weed suppression, and they are really pretty in a lot of cases. So let's go ahead and figure out where in this bed I'm going to plant these 3 new plumbago ground covers. Okay, I've decided I'm going to put one plumbago there in front of the stone because I have a bleeding heart that comes up here. And I'm going to place another one here and another one there. So there'll be a little drift of 3 in this area. And then there's also, like I said, some daffodils and some bleeding hearts, as well as some columbine that come up in this general area. I'm also thinking of adding a shrub here next year. I was thinking about a nandina with some red foliage. Let me know if you have nandina growing in part shade and in a kind of dry soil environment, and let me know how it does. I'd be curious to know. And here is some information on the plumbago in case it's a plant that's also new to you. It's a perennial for part sun. It gets to be 6 to 8 inches in height. And ground covers are typically shorter. They're more of a spreading type plant. It says to space them 18 inches apart, water when dry, hardy to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and blooms late summer to mid-fall. And here's the front side of this bed that I'm working on. I placed that Luthico shrub right there so that you can see kind of what it would look like. So I have to move some of this geranium macrorrhizum ground cover to make space to put this shrub here. And if it does well here, it'll be really pretty because the color is a lot lighter, so it'll be like a bright spot in this little bit of a part shade area. Now this bed certainly needs mulching, but at this point it is fall, so all of the leaves are coming down and the pine needles, so I will wait until spring where I will hopefully put a shrub in here and then give it a fresh coat of mulch. But the leaves are looking so pretty. Here in New England, we're finally getting a lot of color change, and all of these leaves in the woods start to turn yellow, and I also have some really pretty orangey red trees. Oh, such a beautiful time of year. Well, that wraps it up for Thursday. It was really productive to get this done in just under an hour. And it's been really helpful this week to have a bit of a goal and to every day get out and do a little something to get checked off my list, because I've been holding on to these plumbagos for about a month since I bought them, and I'm glad to have finally gotten them planted. And we've made it to Friday. And truth be told, I really didn't want to come outside on lunch today because George, who's my husband and my garden assistant, is actually working from home today, and he enticed me with a sandwich that I love from D'Angelo's and thought that we should go out to lunch to pick up a Thanksgiving sandwich.
Turkey breast, stuffing, cranberry mayo with warm turkey gravy. Tastes like fall, tastes like Pilgrims.
But I knew that I had made this commitment and I had some stuff to do, so I skipped on lunch, and instead I'm going to move a peony. I actually have one in this bed that is a little bit hidden, and it was started from bare root about 3 years ago, and it just this last year had a bunch of blooms on it, and you couldn't even see it because it's hidden behind this rose bush and near this boulevard cypress. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig it up from this area, and I'm going to plant it in a border, probably the border on that side, more in the front of the bed so that it's more visible next spring. So here's the peony that I dug up. It looks really good. The foliage actually still looks really healthy for this time in the season. Usually they start to look really tattered, but here is the clump. You can see that it has lots of eyes, so it's a healthy tuber. And when you plant these, you want to make sure that these eyes are no more than 2 inches below the soil. If it's planted too deeply with too much soil on top of the eyes, you may not get a lot of blooms. So I'm going to go ahead and place this one here over the summer. If you recall, in this border, if you've been around the channel for a while, I had dug up a bunch of daylilies that now that the daylilies are gone, I have this area that opened up. So I'm going to go ahead and plant it in this space. Does anyone else have trouble keeping focused on the task at hand in the garden? I certainly do. I came out here to move this beautiful bowl of beauty, and then I noticed that I had some cat's pajamas Nepeta growing in and around and between some of this Rudbeckia. What actually happened was that Rudbeckia had self-seeded itself in this bed, and apparently it did so in the middle of a clump of Nepeta. This is the cat's pajamas, which is the shorter Nepeta, and I really love it here at the front of this border. But now I dug up this clump in the last few minutes of my lunch here, and I'm starting to tease away the Rudbeckia and the Nepeta. So far, I got a little clump of the Nepeta out of this clump of Rudbeckia, or black-eyed Susan is another common name for it. So now I'm going to work on getting the rest of this teased apart and quickly back into the ground so that it can take advantage of the rain that we're getting later this evening and tomorrow. Look at this bonus bloom. It's a clematis. This is the Presidente clematis. And I don't think I've ever gotten a clematis bloom in October. So this was a really fun surprise. I was walking by and it just popped so nicely against this Colorado blue spruce that it caught my eye. Even a little bit of phlox. This is the fashionably early crystal phlox. It bloomed for me in the spring, and then I deadheaded it because it got really bad powdery mildew, and now it rewarded me with a little bloom cluster. I'm all done with the moving around. So I put the Bowl of Beauty peony right there. And the Nepeta that I teased apart is here. And the Black-Eyed Susan there, which I think will look really nice next to this Blue Fortune Agastache. And while I was here, I also went ahead and pruned back my Symphospirea, this shrub there. I do that about once a year just to size control it. The shrub wants to get somewhere between 4 and 6 feet tall and wide, and I try to maintain it around 3 by 3. But it's really gorgeous. It's got this fern-like foliage and the most amazing spring color. So I really enjoy it in this spot. So that, I would say, was a pretty productive lunch hour. This border is still looking really pretty, and we're almost at the end of October. I have this grass that I divided here that's offering some pretty texture. The sedum is pretty much done, but there's one new bloom there. And this Nepeta. Nepeta is a workhorse perennial. This has been blooming and blooming since spring. I deadheaded this one maybe about a month and a half or so ago, about the time that I planted this grass here. And look, it has all new blooms. The candy corn spirea is looking really bright. Even my knockout rose is still putting out blooms. Look at that. So tomorrow is going to rain again, which means it's going to be another washout this weekend, unless it clears up on Sunday, at which point I will try to do some more gardening, a couple more things to knock off the list this fall. But I hope that this has inspired you to take even a little pocket of time that you might find to get a couple more things accomplished before the season draws to a close. So thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. And please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my future videos. And we'll see you soon.